Hello, welcome to Pensions in 10 with me, David Brooks, and my colleague Chris Rice. This week we take a look at pensions dashboards, we discuss surplus governance, and then we look at the latest on scams.
So Dave, we don't even know when everybody's going to be connecting yet, but there's already concerns that too many might and be actually interested in their pensions.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, so this is about dashboards, pension dashboards, the gift that keeps on giving for content creating like this. So we keep talking about it, but it's still, as you say, it's still not here, and we still don't know when. And there was an SPP event. They did a webinar, and they did a survey of the attendees, and they said around 39% of people attending that were concerned about the potential for dealing with the volumes of queries that are going to come through when dashboard goes live. I suppose it's one of those headlines as well, and you think, well, 39% of people are concerned. I'm not very good at very quick maths, but there's probably around 70% of people that aren't concerned. No, 60% of people, that aren't concerned. Sorry, Chris was going to correct me. I could feel it. 60% of people that are not concerned, and I put myself in the 60%, and not 60% of people that, I don't know, some people, they might not have thought about it very much. But I don't think I would personally be expecting a huge increase in call volumes coming through. I think we will see an uptick of people wanting to know about their pensions. And I suppose the reaction to that will depend on how a provider deals with those queries. And I think as far as we can make it possible, it should try and be a digital journey. I think if there's not a digital journey set up for a scheme that's going to be connected, then I think that will be something to start thinking about. Because if people, you can imagine someone, I'll get my phone, sitting on the sofa, watching Coronation Street or whatever, and gone, I can go on the dashboard because I've got my Gov1 login thing. They can go into the dashboard, have a look at their pension, and then they'll see they've got a pension with XYZ pension scheme administered by whoever. I can click through to their website. I can register for their online portal. I can actually see my personal details. I can request, click a button here. I can request a retirement quote or a transfer value or whatever they want to do. And that feels a much more sort of smoother journey, and the journey that people probably would expect, rather than, I need to make a phone call. That's going to be a faff. All right, I'll do that tomorrow. Tomorrow may never come. For some people, if there's more friction in it, then you're going to see perhaps a drop off. But if you have call centers, perhaps, or telephone lines, emails only, then I think that's where there is going to be a potential for issues, because they've got to be managed and dealt with, triaged, and sent off in different directions. So having a landing page should perhaps be a priority for schemes, to make sure they have a landing page, which would be a web-based thing. And if people have particular problems with the dashboard, you can send them off to Money Helper, who will be able to help you. If they've got questions about state benefits, they can go off. You can send them off somewhere else, or if they've got questions about their benefits, then you can send them to the right place. So it's how you manage that. And to your point, Chris, the international evidence suggests that people don't necessarily do things, as in, we in our heads, I think pension people sometimes in their heads have a sort of a perfect member that's, so well organised, has all their finances, and this dashboard is just going to be a brilliant way for them to contact us and all the rest of it. People just don't act like that. There's a great, general public is a range of people, and people aren't that organised. They'll look at it and they'll look at the summary screen, look at the estimated retirement income at 65, and if they're 40, they might think, well, whatever, I don't know. That's rubbish. That's good. What can I do about it? If you're 60, then chances are you've already been thinking about it, and this might either be an unwelcome or a welcome surprise at the last minute. Again, it might prompt a few people to do things. So the international evidence is that people look at that summary screen and then log off and then go about their day and do something else that's much more fun than worry about pensions. So yeah, I think it's having that digital journey. And I wanted just to comment on that engagement piece. There was a piece I read by I think you did something about engaging with people, and I think I'm taking from their piece. I think again, it's that as much as you can having a digital journey. If you're one of the connected schemes, you are going to be kind of in an upper echelon of schemes of size and perhaps new engagement. Then I think having that digital journey is going to be key. Okay, Chris. So it's almost like luck would have it that you're on, and there's a story around risk transfer and buyout. And so IGG have been doing some research and looking into buyout, but also the governance frameworks around surplus use, which is obviously becoming a big topic. So what's your takeaway from this?
Yeah, I can't help talking a little bit about buyouts, although it's probably, the article is saying there's a little bit less of a focus on buyouts, but I'll come on to buyouts in a minute because I can't help myself. Firstly, the article, the IGG article is saying that trustees are now, there's an increasing share of trustees and employers with DB schemes that are considering run on rather than just defaulting to buyout, because it was always the answer when it was a pipe dream 5 years or so ago. Probably agree with that, but maybe a little bit toned down on the basis that that means not buying out now. So I think quite a few schemes are like, well, yes, we possibly could if we put a bit more money in or in the next couple of years, but let's just hold on, go into the low dependent basis. The scheme can run efficiently at a relatively low risk, and we'll just see how things go. We may generate a massive surplus and have a nice discussion. We may think that, well, we've had enough and buyouts the answer. Also agree with IGG that those schemes that have very actively spoken about the run on, I suppose it's not IGG, it's the survey, isn't it, really, saying that they haven't yet put governance and process around how they distribute that surplus. Can understand that. I think even those buyouts that we've done where there's a surplus for distribution, it's quite a lot of hoops to go through, both consulting with the members, agreeing with the employer. Even if you think you've made your decision up front, there's still a lot to go through. Probably additional complications with the buyout about exactly how you augment the benefits if you are distributing it to the members. But until the regs are out and exactly what those surplus distributions are going to look like, I think a lot of schemes are saying, well, let's just see that. We like the idea of having the surplus. We like the idea of sharing it somehow. Let's just see if we can get that surplus bigger and then see what the regs are before we start distributing it. So does that mean that buyout market's gone quiet and I'm going to be twiddling my thumbs for the year? Don't think so. If we look at 2025, you could spin this two ways. So I'll try and be unbiased about it. Buyout market either went up 20% or it either went down 20%. How can it do both with the actuarial magic, Chris? Well, there was 20%, give or take, less premium transacted. So from over 40 billion down to 38 billion or so, but 20% more deals done. So from just under 300 to just over 360. And so the change there largely is less bigger schemes transacting and more smaller schemes transacting. So what does that mean for this year? Probably a similar amount, I think. I would anticipate that a similar amount of premium and a similar amount of transactions. Unless anything happens in the financial markets, given what we're seeing at the moment with Middle East conflict or any concerns over credit and difficulties with insurers finding assets, we'd expect a similar level. Similar number of players at the moment. Possibly an increased interest in the alternative solutions with the super funds coming on, which might pause some schemes and allow a further consideration. But I'd expect not another 20% number of deals, I don't think, and not another 20% fall in the premium. Probably there or thereabouts if I was to put money on it. So it never goes away. Still some more news coming out on scams, Dave.
Yeah, there was a scam session. The regulator did a webinar, and the Fraud Minister, Lord Hanson, was speaking on it and urging schemes and trustees to use every touch point to remind members about scams and the risk of scams, which of course we wholeheartedly agree with. We regularly talk to trustees about this and suggest that they have it in their newsletters at the very least. And if you don't do newsletters, refer to it in your summary funding statement or something. The risk of scams is so huge. In the DB space, we appreciate that the level of transfers has gone down, and we have the good protections in there, around transfers over £30,000. But it's still, as trustees of a pension scheme, you have these touch points with members, and they could be members of other schemes. So it doesn't hurt to remind them of the scams that they might be affected with in other arrangements if the contact, and the warnings aren't as good there. And the risk is, and they actually talked about it in this webinar, was around websites that are still out there and that are still talking about giving people early access to their pensions and allowing tax-free access to their pensions, almost back to the good old-fashioned trust busting that we had in the 90s where people were doing this. We thought these kind of things had gone away a little bit. Well, I had, perhaps naively, that had gone away a bit, and the scams have moved on to more investment scams where you invest in something and then over a period of time, a couple of years, some charges in inverted commas, and then all of a sudden your money's gone, and the fraudsters have just gone away with your money. And in these cases now, it's that sort of loan back thing where they give you a loan, which is the value of your tax-free cash, and you pay them back with your tax-free cash, which is completely against the law. not allowed under the tax rules. TPR saying they've been using this AI scam sort of. I don't know the phrase because I'm not an IT person, but I think it scans the internet and looks out for these types of websites using these types of language to alert them to the authorities, and they can be shut down. They're saying they've been shutting down lots of these websites, but no doubt they will spring up like whack-a-mole. So I think it's well worth just taking a note as if you're a trustee. The next chance you get, the communication to members, especially the whole membership group, ask your administrator just to try to include a paragraph in around scams, some of the risks, and some places where they can get support and places where they can report those scams as well.
Well, next time maybe I'm on, it won't be dashboards, buyouts, scams. It does feel like a little bit of a recurring theme, but it keeps on giving, and they're important issues at the moment. But thanks for listening this time anyway.